Good evening. I'm Pat Smith. Welcome to Inside Out. This is where we take you inside state and local government and other organizations to bring that information out to you. Helping us do that this evening is Craig Rice, who is a county councilor from District 2. Craig, thanks for coming in.
Thanks so much for having me, Pat.
Let's start with District 2. Where is it now? We've had redistricting done in the past year. What geographical boundaries does District 2 have?
Well, I used to have all of Montgomery County's agricultural reserves starting from as far south as the edge of North Potomac and Montgomery Village. Now I have the entire Montgomery Village area, North Potomac, and I go all the way up to the Frederick line. I no longer have Olney, so I'm all the way up to the Laytonsville line, so the northeastern part of the county, and the western part of Montgomery County, which is now in Roger Berliner's district. So I have that middle swath of the county that goes all the way up to the Frederick border. Still encompasses a large portion of the agricultural reserve, but most importantly, I think when it comes to demographics, I also represent the burgeoning areas of Germantown and Clarksburg, the very new area that we've seen the most growth in Montgomery County in.
And speaking of those two areas, which the growth is just phenomenal, and Clarksburg continues to grow.
Yes.
Is it's going to be built all the way out to Ridge Road,
That's right.
Route 27. So many changes. I don't understand how that development has been allowed with Ridge Road remaining a two-lane road.
Yeah, it's one of those where when we look at the master plan for Clarksburg, there's a lot of growth that's there, and of course there are a lot of road improvements and infrastructure improvements that go along with it. And so it's going to be really important for us to make sure that we're adhering to all of those. Oftentimes, what I've seen with some of the projects that we've done in the past here in the county is we build, and then we build the infrastructure afterwards to catch up. And I've been really passionate about making sure. I was meeting with MTA just yesterday, and one of the things that we were talking about was making sure that we focus on having the bus routes that are there, connecting people to the MARC train, making sure that there increased MARC train ridership. All of those kinds of things are really important when you're talking about a big community, ensuring that some people don't have to drive, that they can actually use different forms of mass transit. We have the Corridor City Transitway, which will be coming. So all of those things are going to support that area of Clarksburg. But you're absolutely right. There's just a lot of development that's happening in Clarksburg, and a lot more slated to happen. You know, there are two retail projects that are out there that are vying for which one's going to move forward right now in Clarksburg as well. So I mean, there's just a lot of activity happening there, and we're keeping a very close eye on it.
Where are the people coming from, and where are they working?
Well, all over. The interesting thing is that, and that's one of the things that we really want to focus on also, is making sure that we have economic development. People can work where they live. Unfortunately, most of those people are driving down south and either working in the district or in the down county, some even in Northern Virginia. And so the challenge is that, you know, when we look at the future vision for Montgomery County, we want to make sure that we are also not just a residential hub, but also an economic hub in terms of making sure that we've got jobs, and, you know, making sure that we can solidify that overall strength that's there in terms of our economy, and making sure that we can compete with areas like Fairfax and the District of Columbia.
It seems as though we've lost some major corporations looking to locate here to Fairfax County, Virginia, and I guess in large part they don't like the tax structure here in Maryland.
Sure, that's one of the challenges. I mean, when you look at Montgomery County's energy tax that we imposed right before I came into office, you know, and the fact that we haven't lived up to our promise in terms of getting rid of the energy tax. When we look at the property tax rates that we have, there are a number of taxes that are out there that are high. But I would remind people that it also pays for the fantastic services. So we are getting ROI. We're getting that return on our investment because, you know, we have one of the best school systems, not only in the state, but in the nation. I go around to different conferences and talk about education, and folks are always touting about how great Montgomery County is. Our Health and Human Services Department is touted as one of the best in the nation as well in terms of the things that we do to help those that are needy. We have a growing senior population, and we just rolled out a brand new senior initiative with one of our senior fellows, Elaine Binder, who had worked with us on coming out with a senior rollout. there's so much that Montgomery County does that we have to pay for. And so that's where that fine balance is. And we've just really got to get a handle on what makes the most sense for us in terms of the balance between the tax burden, but also the great services that make Montgomery County special.
Well, and unfortunately, they still, like the Department of Health and Human Services, are not able to meet all of the demand.
That's right. Yeah, there's a huge challenge that's out there when it comes to making sure that we're meeting the new needs. And with an economy struggling the way it has been, we've seen more people that are coming through the doors asking for help, asking for service. Manna Food here in Gaithersburg has reported record numbers of people that are asking for food support. So all of those things are indicative that we're still not out of the woods just yet. We need to make sure that we're doing more to help people. And quite frankly, the federal government facing sequestration has already started giving the instructions that they're going to have to probably trim down another 5, 10, or 15% in terms of the overall support from the feds when it comes to our Health and Human Services budget. So we're paying very close attention to that as well. There are a lot of changes that might happen over the next year.
Right. Now, what kind of shape are we in with that budget?
Well, I think that our overall budget right now is reflective of us rebounding. And so that's a great thing.
So is there some expansion of it this year?
There is. We've actually had the room to be able to do a little bit of an increase for our county employees who, before have been furloughed, have had to pay more for health care. So they've actually had pay reductions for the past few years. Even when we did the stipend the 1 year for $2,000, the amount that we asked for in increased health care coverage payments, co-pays, the whole nine, actually made people making less, it ensured that people were making less than they were before. But that's what we had to do to make sure that we were righting our fiscal ship. I think that we've now turned that corner, and we're starting to see a little bit of growth. You're starting to see in a lot of the departments that we've come back. I'm the council's lead for libraries, and so in that instance, we've actually done a little bit more in supporting our libraries. We've done a lot in terms of supporting our police and fire as well. But overall, again, it's still measured. And I think that's the smart thing for us to do, is be measured until we can get a more stable indicator that we're really out of the woods.
Well, on that same topic of budgets, would you explain to our viewers where the school department budget comes from and how that is managed?
Sometimes I wish I could explain it myself, Pat, but it's really one of those things where our school system budget represents about half of our overall budget. Our overall budget for Montgomery County as a whole is almost $5 billion. The school system, we allocate them their budget, which is roughly a little bit over half of that. It represents about 51%. And that budget then goes to our school system to decide what priorities they want to do. Now that's mandated into law. We have a new law, state law, called maintenance of effort. And a maintenance of effort requires that every single year we not only put in the same amount that we did last year, but also account for every single student in allocation that's associated with each student, roughly a little over, right around $8,000, $9,000. And that then goes in, it's multiplied by the number of students, and that automatically is applied to the base as well. So the school system in perpetuity, by state law, will never ever receive a reduction in pay in terms of the amount of money that comes into the school system. So even during tough economic times, all of the other departments within the Montgomery County budget are subject to cuts, but the school system isn't.
So even as you meet the requirement of the maintenance of effort, and you don't give less money to the school board, if there are more students, the budget it's mandated that it increase.
That's right. It's mandated to grow. And I think it's the idea behind it was in the right spirit. I just think that the challenges in implementing it are the problem, because we just saw the very tough economic times, and we just talked about what our county employees had to suffer with, but the school system didn't and won't ever with this maintenance of effort law. And so I think that there has to be a balance. There has to be times in which we understand that we can do a little bit less because we have to, as we do with any other department. I mean, for our kids, look, it's just as important to make sure that they have the wraparound services that will make them be successful as it is to have a teacher teaching them in the classroom. All of those things matter, and so I think that we've got to really be reflective of that when it comes to how we approach our budget.
Well, in light of the fact of the budget and all that, we've had the experience over the past several years where the police department wanted to cut back the number of school resource officers, the number of police officers present in the school on a full-time basis. Where do we stand on that?
Well, I'm actually happy to report that the county executive included in his budget an additional 6 school resource officers. Last year we had 12 officers that were officially assigned to the schools. Adding in these other 6 brings us up to 18, but in fact we also have a number of other officers that are patrol officers that the chief has actually assigned them to schools to act as school resource officers. The chief is committed to keep that in this budget this year, so in reality we're only looking at roughly about 5 schools that we actually need to have additional SROs to cover for us to have a full complement of school resource officers. That's what I'm looking to push us towards. I think that it's extremely important, not just because of what we saw happen in Newtown, Connecticut, but they are also a preventative measure for any of those kinds of things happening. Our school resource officers are the folks that have great relationships with students in our schools and make sure that we're staving off problems before they get to the level of a Newtown.
And also stay in enough trouble before they get to actually having to go to court.
That's
with
absolutely
some
right.
problems that they're doing.
That's right.
Their conduct is out of line. The 5 schools that are not directly covered, are they covered by officers rotating through there, like one officer has more than one high school to visit?
They are, and that's the thing that the chief is now looking at, realigning those officers to make sure that for those districts that are a little bit larger geographically, that those have the individual school resource officers at each, but those where the schools might be a little bit closer together, so that that school resource officer can bounce between those schools to make sure that they're still covered. The key is that the chief has promised us, and I think this is really important, that no school will not have a school resource officer that's checking in with that school to make sure that they're covered. They might not have a person who's there assigned to them every single day,
right.
A particular, and be it the same person, but they will have an officer making sure that they're establishing relationships, that they're there to talk to the students, to make sure that we're trying to stave off these problems, to give students an eye into that a police officer is not just a person to lock you up, but also a person that can talk to you and help you. You know, if you're experiencing problems in your life and you want to talk to somebody about it, they're there for that too. And I think that that's really important for folks to understand. This isn't just a badge and a gun. This is a person who's there trying to establish a relationship with our students to make sure that they're making the best decisions possible.
And if the officer is not there, is there one that is specifically supposed to be visiting there? So if there was an issue, the principal could immediately call that officer? There
actually is, and one of the things we're also doing is working up a memorandum of understanding, a brand new memorandum of understanding between the police department and the school system, and that's happening as we speak. That's going to be extremely important when it comes to laying out the processes and procedures, but you lay it out exactly right. We want to make sure that every school will have access to an officer. In the case of that there's an emergency, that we'll be able to immediately respond. We will always have that and make sure that that's a part of that memorandum.
Very good. When we come back, I'd like to talk more about county facilities throughout the county, because we've had a lot of changes with the police department moving and all of that. We'll do that.
Excellent.
We'll be right back. You're watching Inside Out. I'm Pat Smith.
$7,000 estudiantes de secundaria abandonan la escuela todos los días. Esto forma una línea de más de 4 millas de largo. Podemos mantener a los estudiantes en la escuela. Visita busstop.org y toma el primer paso.
Welcome back. This is Inside Out. I'm Pat Smith, and this is where we take you inside state and local government, other organizations, to bring their information out to you. With us doing that tonight is Craig Rice. He's our county councilor from District 2. which, as we discussed in the first segment, is the central part of the north part of the county going up to the Frederick line. It comes all the way down from Montgomery Village up to Frederick.
That's right.
Okay. I wanted to talk a little bit about facilities because there's been some major changes, and with in mind the type of budgets that we're struggling with, the huge facility that is being built at Shady Grove Road
Yes.
and Crabs Branch.
Right.
What is that?
That is actually a consolidation, and so that's our new Public Training Safety Academy that's combined with Department of Liquor Control. There'll be a number of bus storage areas there as well. What we've done is we've consolidated because we had multiple tranches of space where we had Department of Liquor Control, our Police Training Academy, some of our bus storage for both MCPS as well as for Ride-On. We've consolidated all of that together. It really made sense for us from a budgeting standpoint, as many other companies do, to say, can we combine these services together? Because all of the support mechanisms for each of those individual are exactly the same, and they're being provided by our county employees. So when it comes to maintenance, why not maintain all of these different types of equipment at the same place? Mm-hmm. Why not, when we're talking about feeding a large number of people, why not have one cafeteria, one contract that handles a large amount of our workforce? Those are the kinds of things that I think you'll start to see government as a whole moving towards. But I'm very happy to see Montgomery County doing that. It's a large expense at the beginning. Mm-hmm. The outlay is huge, but in the end, we'll certainly see lots of cost savings for years to come as we, again, maximize our real ability to be able to do all of those kinds of things under one roof.
Is the county going to recoup part of the money that it's taken to get this up and running by selling the property where the present transfer station is for the school buses on Crabs Branch and the liquor department?
That's definitely the plan, and whether it's outright selling it or doing a long-term lease with developers, those are all things that are currently going through our Department of General Services and through the County Executive's Office to make sure that whatever deals they strike make sense and are in the best interest of the county. But yes, I mean, we're certainly going to be recouping a lot of those costs. I look at that as the same as what we're doing with park and planning. And park and planning's potential headquarter move from Silver Spring to Wheaton. And it's the same thing. We've got valuable land that's there at 8787 Georgia Avenue, mm-hmm. where the current park and planning headquarters is, looking to move to the Wheaton Triangle area as potential. And so there are just a number of things that are out there that we're looking to do, again, to combine services. In that case, we've been looking at combining mm-hmm. park and planning with our Department of Permitting Services. So again, combining different uses together, making sure that we're consolidating to make the best use of our space, and then also recouping the space that we currently have to offset a lot of that cost of new construction.
Well, is that going to be a new facility that's built in the Wheaton Triangle?
It would be, and this is still currently in the planning phase at this point. Nothing's concrete and set, but I think that it represents us looking at a very new model. Before we were very scattered throughout the county, weren't very strategic in terms of where we place things. Wheaton being a metro hub is also a great opportunity for mm-hmm. a lot of county employees to ride metro. Same with PSTA. So, I mean, there's a number of different things out there that I think we're moving in the right direction in terms of not just for our county's fiscal well-being, but also for the sake of our employees as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we ought to clarify that it's not only just for consolidation, but the park and planning headquarters, they outgrew that 25 years ago.
That's right. And so, we've got to respond to the growing needs as well.
Right. Interesting. Now, the police headquarters has moved from Research Boulevard mm-hmm. out to right adjacent to Kentlands mm-hmm. in the old National Geographic headquarters
yes.
building. I thought that at one point that the police department and the liquor control board was going to go out there.
Yeah, it's one of those
I mean, the training academy.
Right. It's one of those where we initially have a plan, and the plan doesn't necessarily always come to fruition. It's the same as with parking planning and DPS at Wheaton. We're not sure if that's going to work. Once you start exploring the scope of the space, the scope of the buildings, and realize that, wait a minute, they might need a little bit more space, their functionality is a little bit different. I mean, Department of Permitting Services, for example, I'll take the alternate situation that we talked about. They're going to have equipment. They have large trucks and things like that they do when they go out and inspect some of these. Where are they going to be kept? They normally have a garage of their own that they have currently. All of those kinds of things go into, whether a space is going to work. Same with liquor control. They've got large trucks. Where are those trucks going to be? Storage. All of that kind of stuff really matters and affects, the security aspect as well. People that are going to Department of Liquor Control are just going there to pick up an alcoholic beverage license. Do we want them to be in the same area to where we have police and access to firearms, and what's the security going to look like? How are people going to have to go through that? There are a lot of different things that really play into it when it comes to making those final decisions as to who we can put together and consolidate. And so that presents some of the challenges.
Well, it is nicely located because of I-370 being
yes.
right there at this point. But that one particular intersection is going to be a busy place when you have all those large liquor control delivery trucks and the school buses.
Right.
And the ride-on buses.
That's right. That's right. And that's why we're always looking at retooling. When it comes to working with our Department of Transportation, we're always looking to try and make sure that we can reevaluate, making sure that the routes in and out and the light cycles are where they need to be with the increased flow of traffic that we're anticipating. So those are the kinds of things that we look at. I mean, the congested intersection of 355 and Shady Grove Road is a great example. We've done some retooling in that intersection alone to try and alleviate some of that. But people will still attest and tell you there are backups there and there are still challenges during rush hour. Those are things that we're just going to have to be cognizant of and making sure that we make adjustments, knowing that we're going to see increased traffic in those areas. That's kind of the problem that goes along with being successful. We are a growing county that's now over 1 million people, and so we have to provide the services that are necessary to those 1 million people, and that's always one of the things that we're constantly looking at.
Okay. Speaking of the intersection of Shady Grove and 355, which is south of your district per se, but as people know, you have the interest of all of the county in your eyesight. Right there, there's the Sears property that is now vacated, and there's the vacant land that's on the corner. And there had been talk about a mixed-use development going there. Is that still on the table?
Well, the city of Rockville actually annexed that property, and the county council signed off on that annexation. So from what I understand, and this will be within the purview of the Rockville City Council and the Rockville Mayor to make that decision, but that's one of the things that we have heard is the planned development use for that particular area. So that's exciting. I mean, whenever we're seeing, look, we've talked a lot about making sure that we have affordable housing throughout the county, and whenever we talk about mixed-use development, that certainly brings about the ability for us to encourage more affordable housing units to come onto the market. And so whenever we can give an opportunity for us retooling where we see properties that are kind of blighted and going downhill, and new things that we can do in those areas, we're going to encourage it. I bring that up to segue into BAE and the Vitro site in Aspen Hill as another example of where we've got an old office building and not really sure about what we're going to do with it. And I think it's important for us as a council to make sure that we're responding to the needs of the community and saying that, look, what other kinds of development can go there to make sure that we're keeping pace in communities that you don't really hear a lot about.
And those buildings you refer to in Aspen Hill, they're just north of the Home Depot store? That's
right, exactly.
What is in there now? Anything? Are they vacant?
It's vacant, and it's been vacant for years. So it's just kind of sitting there. And the unfortunate part about it is we start moving towards, you recently heard about the rain tax that the county imposed when it comes to impervious surface. You've got a big concrete structure with asphalt parking lot. You want to talk about impervious, that's the prime example of it. And for us to let that just sit there without us doing something different, without redeveloping that, to making sure that it has the newest stormwater management accoutrements, all of that's going to be really important for us as a part of that conversation about redevelopment. It's not just about the economic development. It's not just about the jobs and making sure that we can provide different kinds of opportunities for our community, but it's also about the environment.
Right,
and can we
right.
do things differently in terms of making sure that we're responding to the greater needs that we have? So.
Who owns those properties, Vitro and BAE?
It's currently owned by the Lees. The Lee family owns that and has come to the council saying that they want to do some retail development. There's been talk of it being a Walmart. There's no guarantees of that, and the council frankly doesn't have any say-so as to what a landholder or leaseholder decides to lease their property to. I know that there's a lot of concerns that are out there via Walmart and bringing another Walmart to the county. And a lot of people don't realize we already have one in Germantown, right in the Milestone Shopping Center. But I think that, look, we need to make decisions based on the right thing that we're doing as far as land use and zoning, and let the landowners decide, or the property owners decide, what particular vendors or stores are going to go in.
I wonder, has Mr. Lee written in his column about the impervious nature of that property?
I haven't seen that. I've certainly seen some of the articles about the economic development side of it, but I don't think people are talking really about the environmental aspects of this. I mean, I think it's something for me as a person who certainly embraces and understands the economic impact. And, as being a former person who worked for Marriott and Aramark, I certainly understand the business side of it and the importance of that. But also, I mean, just trying to be an environmental steward as well, because that also is important for us. I can't just, sit back and see a building like that continues to not contribute and actually be a detriment to our environment to stay there.
We only have a couple of minutes left, but I would like you to address the rain tax, to define that for our viewers as to what it actually involves.
Well, let me be first very clear that this is a result of a state law.
Right.
So a lot of people don't understand that. So the state passed a mandate saying that we now had to bring commercial owners on board. Currently, if you're a residential owner, you're already paying this so-called rain tax. What it basically says is the amount of impervious surface that you have, you're paying a percentage of that. The difference is that right now, the residents are paying the lion's share for everyone. So all of our commercial owners are actually off the hook currently. And so what the county council just did is recently passed this, in response to the state, it's passed a mandate for us rolling out a new process of opening up this same tax that residents had been paying to our commercial property owners as well. The reason why the state didn't apply it to the commercial owners before was understanding that you've got a lot of concrete buildings and parking lots. And so, of course, that's a huge burden. But I think it's going to be important for us now to make sure that we do it gradually. So we've phased it in over a number of years. We've also enacted a grant process as well as a hardship process for some people who might not be able to afford to pay. And so I think that we've done everything that we can from our small businesses to make sure that they're protected. But our residents should actually see a reduction in the amount of money that they're paying for this as a part of their property tax. And it's a line item that's already there. You can go and look at your property tax bill from the years before. And for most
Hopefully
people,
we'll see it go down.
you'll see it go down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Craig, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
This is Inside Out. I'm Pat Smith. With us tonight has been Craig Rice, who's a county councilor from Central Up County, District 2. Have a pleasant evening.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. Stop the texts. Stop the wrecks. Visit us at stoptextsstopwrecks.org.
Traditional light bulbs actually generate 9 times more heat than light. Switch to energy-saving bulbs. Saving energy saves you money.